So this video is primarily going to be about seeing if we can win the Great Plains Tour without any points invested into the flat category, because if we can do that, then the Grand Slam of winning all 5 major tours is still alive for Herman Watson. But before we get to that, we have 2 of these 7 Prestige Classics, races that I signed up for so I didn't have to do the Giro and Vista Het Vizia on my way to getting back to the Gasmea. I did want to get to the Gasmea relatively quickly, but obviously it's taken me a while to get around to actually making these videos because, well, first off, I'm lazy at times, and second of all, it hasn't been my priority because Let's Make a Soccer Team has been the more popular series. In this race, our leader is Vladislav Pavlov, and we're actually going to get on the board here. We've been struggling to win races this season, but Pavlov is going to get over the line first. Another rider, same time, but is unable to sprint over the top, and that's a decent chunk of points for us. Kevin Graff gained another substantial chunk of experience from that takes him to level 5 and level 2 climber. This puts us in an interesting position where he may well surpass Herman Watson before I was ready to replace Watson with him as the main leader of the team. However, this playthrough is going to end before we reach that conundrum. Whatever happens at this next Tour of Gasmea is going to be the finale. For now, Murray Lake Circuit, and Cedric Rouse is supposed to be our leader here, but he's not Jonas Winter, unfortunately. When it comes to these bunched sprints, he does at times struggle, and in any case, we let one guy go at the end that we're never able to catch back up to. I'm a little bit out of position for the final sprint in any case, and I'm only going to come through in 4th with Kevin Graff taking 10th. So obviously not a good sign for our team's ability to hit the sponsor objective this season if we're struggling to win level 7 races. I think our best bet, rather than go for stage wins, would be to take the yellow jersey with Watson early at the Tour of Gasmea and then hold it. But before we get to that, we've got the Great Plains Tour to try and win. We're going to be starting behind the 8 ball, however, because the prologue means that the flat specialists are going to gain quite a bit of time on us. We don't factor in this stage at all. Herman Watson ends up 0.32 turns behind. I was still feeling cautiously optimistic about flipping that time, however, because as you'll see later, the hillier stages of this tour are actually quite challenging and well suited to a Watson. Graff, meanwhile, he goes up and tries to get the mountain points because he can at least claim the red jersey for a couple of days. That will be some good points for him. And as for this stage finish, it's a bunch sprint, no GC changes, but Galliard, sneaky good sprinter when the terrain suits him, able to take the stage win. The next stage, however, goes horribly wrong for us as there's an early escape group and we don't mark it well enough. The rest of the field are partially to blame as well, but we had to take more responsibility for chasing ourselves, and we didn't. And when we reach the finish line with the pack, the gap is 0.76 of a turn to a pair of riders that I am worried are going to be able to hold on to such an advantage till the end of the race. Things don't get any better in stage 4 as the same thing happens again. A pair of riders get away and the peloton's happy to let it go. Though this time I'm not as concerned about giving them 0.4 of a turn because stage 5 is actually going to be quite difficult and they're not going to get a chance to rest in the pack like the 2 riders we let go last time. With that being said, it does put into perspective how easy most of the Great Plains Tour is if I'm calling this a difficult stage. The climb was just long enough to take 2 turns to get over, which actually in one way worked for us, but in another against us because Stephen Turner was the guy who got away from the field this time, and that just gives us another dangerous opponent we have to chase down in the standings. On the other hand, Watson was able to gain some time back on a good portion of the field. His group was a relatively small one. But with Watson now being almost a full turn behind the new leader Turner, and with Springvale losing the lead in both points jerseys, We were going to have to turn things around soon, lest we become an also-ran in this tour. Turner, however, gives us a lifeline by dropping out in the next stage. He would end up losing over 3 turns, which I guess he overexerted himself to become the solo victory on stage 5, but I didn't think this was a stage hard enough for him to lose so much time. Lopez also lost a ton of time, and meanwhile, despite the difficulty of the late stage, Galliard's going to stay in the main group and be able to sprint over the top here, take the stage win, and also we've halved the time gap. Golubev becomes the new leader of the tour. He was the highest placed rider to be in this first diminished group. And even though Watson only moved up to 12th in the overall standings, the task is looking a lot less daunting than it was last stage, especially with this buzzsaw by Great Plains standards awaiting us. Golubev, however, isn't content on playing defense. When Kevin Graff, who I am trying to win the red jersey with, goes up to claim the provisional lead in that category, Golubev joins him. I think this might have worked against the yellow jersey, however, as he burns more attack points to not make it to the top of the climb, and this does get closed down within a couple of turns. He was actually trying to go into every attack. This attack later on, second to last climb, well, to be fair, we go into it as well, and it does get closed down again. I thought that was going to be the move that made it to the end of the race. But crucially, we still have enough attack points with Watson at the end of the stage to make it up the last climb, and Golubev does not. Watson doesn't win the stage. It's going to be Wilhelm Wagner, who has that +3 in mountain, that wins the sprint up. But the way the time gaps worked, Watson's actually going to take the yellow jersey by a very narrow margin, but we are leading the Great Plains Tour, only to immediately lose it again at the next time trial. Or will we? Because this is a team time trial, which means Watson will get the help of Galliard and Bruno, and it's not like Watson is terrible at time trialing himself. In addition, the route is set up in such a way that there's no point going all out in the first 2 turns. You want to land on this 14 node and then go all out from there. At which point the route actually favours us because Watson can take care of that mountain move and Bruno and Galliard will take care of the rest. As it turns out, the entire field stays clumped together at every time check, and while we only come 4th in the team time trial, we're only 0.05 of a turn off of the winning time, which means we are actually going to go into the rest day still with the leader's jersey. It is still a difficult position to be in though, with 13 rivals within 0.6 of a turn of Watson, the closest of whom is only 0.03 of a turn away. We're going to have to control the field, but I also want to go for the clean sweep, which means Graff has to initiate a breakaway to get some more mountain points. This stage, however, far too flat and simple for a breakaway to stay away. Galliard, meanwhile, he's able to get his 3rd stage win here. He is sprinting very well, and hopefully he can take green and complete the sweep. Moving on to stage 10, and I hold off on attacking with Graff because Albrecht was tailing me for the first couple of corners. You'll see at this point I've put pins on the closest contenders in the general classification, but for whatever reason he decides to go in the relay, so I'm able to go and take the 5 points, and I think at this point Graff is guaranteed to take the red jersey, so we can focus on the other 2 jerseys from here on out. No field split on today's climb, so Herman Watson's in no danger, and we turn our attention to Galliard, who unfortunately could not make it a 4th stage win. The way the relays worked out, he merged back in too far back to make a run at it. He at least managed to outscore his green jersey rivals, so the points gap extends to 12. So going into the second big GC test of the tour, we actually have 3 of the top 9 favourites, but all focus has to be on Watson specifically because there are a lot of threats behind us in the standings. Not all of them are even on our immediate radar. We have to control this field, and it looks like we're doing a good job of it, but then Wagner decides to go super early. Or at least I thought it was early, but it's not actually that early when you consider how close the finish line is. As it turns out, he is able to get up to the top of this mountain the following move, and we're still in it. Panic stations now, as it's only 0.31 of a turn between Wagner and Watson. I have to take up the chase, with Watson especially, even if it means sacrificing my stage finish. Final time for Wagner as he comes over to win the stage, 18.35, and we're going to come in 18.62. By 0.04 of a turn, Watson stays in yellow, and Wagner moves up to third, but it'll be interesting to see if he can gain anything on Abasi in the closing stages. You also would have noticed in that previous sequence that I could have marked Wagner's move with Watson. I didn't because I thought landing on that 14 node was better than spending 5 extra attack points. That was a miscalculation that I thankfully wasn't completely punished for. I would have gone with Wagner in hindsight. I did not need the extra attack points because this stage, completely flat. Are we really going to use all of our attack points in it? The answer is no. That just leaves us with a sprint, and Galliard I thought was in great position, but then the relay breaks up right on the finish line and that puts him too far to the front. I still managed to sprint well, but Ruggero beats us to second place. 2 points in the green jersey, but we're still 10 ahead. This second to last stage is actually quite tricky for a flat rated stage. We have this 3% climb on the one turn, and then the next turn we go through a technical sector, and the last member of the relay decides to go super hard. Most of the field is able to make a catch-up move, but some get left behind. Watson was not in the relay at all. I'm not stupid. And as a result, we're actually going to gain some time on some of the yellow pinned riders I was looking out for. It might give us some insurance before the last stage. And as for the sprints, Galliard has just enough to sprint over the top and stay there. His 4th stage win of the Tour, and the clean sweep is looking good because Graf is already a lock for the red jersey. Watson should win the yellow, especially now that the gap is 0.22 of a turn to Ruggero. And 12 points the margin for Galliard with 16 on offer on this final stage. We should be okay. And now with Ruggero failing to score in both intermediate sprints, I can confirm that Thomas Galliard will win the points classification. It's a good thing I had that margin though, because at the end of this stage, the rear of the relay drops the front and I don't get a catch-up move, which means Galliard is not going to be in this sprint. They finished the stage. Ruggero only took third though. It was Auber who won it. And nonetheless, Watson is going to come through same time as the leaders. He's at no risk of losing his yellow jersey, and we still get the clean sweep overall. The sponsors, however, are only moderately pleased because results like these have become an expectation since we have big money and can afford a super team. We still need a net 3,001 points to please the sponsors by the end of the season. So that's a secondary goal to keep in mind, in addition to Herman Watson's Grand Slam run at the Gasmea. As for Kevin Graf, he goes up to level 6, I go energy per turn, and he should be in good shape to start going for wins in his own rights. As for our scouting, I find yet another 12 potential guy. It's great to have options in case we need to cut one of these riders next year. This is, of course, a hypothetical next year because next episode will, in fact, be the series finale, whether or not we lose the Tour of Gasmea. So I hope it's a good one.